This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Niemann. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd Niemann.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Niemann here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of buying and owning a small mobile home park. I was looking at a smaller park recently and was analyzing some of this for myself, so I figured I might as well share it with you guys. What's a small park? Well, I mean, it's pretty subjective to some people, to some degree, but I think we'd all agree that 10 units is pretty small. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac generally would say anything under 50 is, quote, small and is not eligible for agency finance. So that's one of the cons of a small park, is it's harder to get agency debt. And then sometimes conduit and CMBS also harder. But you may say, 45, 46, that's not small. Where 2, 3, 4, clearly small. I think the definition of a mobile home park or manufactured housing community is it's got 2 or more, right? So just 2 or more units. So that's small. I don't know. Play it by ear for yourself. It may depend on the valuation. I mean, there's a 25 pad park in California that's probably worth several $1 million, right? So small may not be an economic number, but it's a unit size. I think these pros and cons are going to carry over based on the number of lots. So here we go. Some of the cons. It's harder to exit, harder to refinance, because not many people typically will want a 20 pad park, for example. If you have a 51 pad park, almost everybody wants it. You got a 101, almost everybody wants it. So another con is you don't get the economies of scale, and it's harder to hire labor, for example, because if I've got 30 park-owned homes, I can have a full-time maintenance guy. But if I've got one, I don't have a full-time maintenance guy. Well, now I got to call Joe the plumber or call a professional plumber. Well, they're not as responsive. They're more expensive. You've got a lot of fixed cost. The park I'm looking at right now, it's only 18 pads, and it's in a park where I already own 90. Another market where I already own 90, so like, well, I can just bolt this one on. I've already got management and maintenance nearby. I only just grab 18 more. But the reality is, whether you got 18 or in a unit park, or you've got only 9 occupied of the 18, you got some fixed costs. Like, it costs the same to push the snow based on linear feet of street. It costs the same for taxes if it's 9 out of 18, that's what this one is, versus 18 out of 18. So you've got some of the same fixed costs. You got some of the same fixed costs of due diligence. I mean, you still got to drive or fly to get there. You still got to pay for a phase 1 environmental. Phase 1's going to cost you $2,000, whether the park is 20 or 120. Survey costs like that, title work, legal fees, others DD effort is going to really gobble up a smaller park a lot harder. So that's one challenge. Typically, it's harder to get bank loans on smaller parks. Really, anything under $500,000 a loan is a lot tougher. Under $1 million is also can be tough. You're going to have to go with a local bank, recourse debt. If you want to get in the program with 21st Mortgage, for example, it's going to be harder if you have less than 10 vacant pads or less than 50 pads. So just in general, the banking is going to be a little worse. So those are some of the initial cons. Some of the pros, some of the inverses of those is because you can't get bank debt, maybe you can afford to pay it cash because it's a cheaper deal. Maybe you can get seller carry. In general, a smaller park's going to cost less, so it'd be cheaper, require less cash. It may be a nice trial park, depending on where you're at financially. So it might be a good starter park. It's generally going to be easier to manage. A con is you're not going to afford to hire a full-time manager, so you're looking at a park greeter or yourself. Park greeters can typically be less skilled than a manager. One of the pros, though, it's easier to find these, and you can find them at a higher cap rate, which can mean a higher yield because you got less competition, frankly. One thing you can do as well is you can kind of bundle these together. I own 2 46-unit parks in a city in central Missouri that, large metro, good metro. Okay, I got less than 50 pads, but I have 2 of them. And I don't have investors in them, so they happen to have the same ownership group. which means I can later on get an agency. These deals are in rehab mode, infill value add mode. But when I'm done with them, probably 18 months to 24 months from now, I'll be able to package those as a quote scattered site under Fannie Mae and put them in the same loan package with joint collateral. I can have the same manager. Obviously, they're close to one another, so there is some opportunity there. The bundles, that could be a pro. You can buy them at a cheaper value and then bundle them and kind of get the 2 + 2 = 5 synergy. In general, I would say a smaller park's probably be a little easier to get the zoning on and get a satisfactory zoning letter, because it's probably not that big a town, or it's not that big a thorn to the city or town. So it might be easier there. It's not a guarantee, some of these things are more likely than that, but I would bet on it, I guess. In general, you have less tenants, so probably less headaches. But one bad tenant's worth 100 good tenants as far as headache. So there's some of that. But in general, you have less park-owned homes, less capex needs. But if you do have a park-owned home that goes vacant or needs heavy renovation, or you have a major capex issue like a sewer replacement, well, it's going to sting more, because it's going to be a bigger percentage of the total deal. So that's kind of the reverse of your economies of scale. You don't have economies of scale. But gross dollars, if you have to fix the sewer line at a 20-pad park, it's probably going to be a lot less than fixing the whole sewer at a 200-pad park. Last one's kind of a pro work on. Is you can be more personal. Like, you could know all the tenants by name. You could, get to know them, walk the park. Some people say, that's great, I really know this community. Some people say, I don't want to know this community. I want to be this out-of-town manager that no one bugs. That just comes with a lot of managing it yourself too. I mean, when you're in a smaller park, you'll probably manage yourself. So the pro is you get to learn the business. The con is just everything that you would normally want with scaling is a little harder to reach. If you're gonna get a property management software, like a Rent Manager or Building on Rapfolio or something, well, that's gonna be a little more expensive. You're not gonna be able to have your accounting department or HR department. You're not gonna have a riding lawnmower you can share between parks, things like that. So, in general, I've bought some small parks. I've bought as small as 16, and I've bought a couple other parks. I bought an 18, 36, a couple 46, several in the 50s. I think in my opinion, once you get to 50, you're not small because your agency good. I mean, I even think once you get over 40, it's pretty solid. I've got a 20-pad park in Des Moines. I gave a podcast on that. We bought it stupid cheap. We added a ton of value in short order. So and it wasn't competitive, frankly, because not a lot of people want to buy a 20-pad park, or they're not looking for them. Some of these bigger players are pretty rigid, and they say nothing less than 100 or nothing less than 50. And to them, 99 is way worse than 101. To me, they're about the same, 2% off or something. So I like small parks for some reasons. Like you can get them a lot cheaper. You can push a higher yield. They're a lot easier to find, but it is harder to have efficiencies in management. So you just got to take the good with the bad. And then part of this depends on where they're located and the market area, etc. But I wouldn't shy away from a deal just because it's 20 pads, and just recognize eyes wide open when you're going in. Till next time, thanks and God bless.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Niemann. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.